Half Sword is one of those games that just looked like a meme. Then I realised after playing the demo that it was a serious combat sim wearing a goofy grin. It is brutal, heavy, and weirdly authentic. I mean, like, very authentic, because just one clean hit can end the fight instantly, even if you're on the losing side of that fight. Hello guys, welcome back to the Sim Shack. I am SimUK. I took a look at the demo for Half Sword today. It's a physics-based medieval combat simulator focused on historically accurate arms and armour, and it has a lot of blood and gore baked into the experience. It launched into early access on the 30th of January 2026, and the core pitch was simple. Fight through brutal tournaments, climb the ranks, and try not to lose your head literally along the way. And every now and then you could pick up new weapons, new equipment, and hopefully some armour. The first thing that hit me was the tone. It doesn't seem to take itself too seriously. They've actually injected quite a bit of humour into the Steam page, but the combat, that absolutely landed with me 100%. You can choose the violence level at the beginning, and it went from feather-tickling silliness to grotesque pretty fast. But the real magic wasn't the gore, it was the physics. I constantly found myself grabbing, clinching, swinging, missing, and then panicking as the other guy got inside of my range. Luckily, I did quite well, and I learned a little bit more, became a little bit more sensible in my attack. And I did quite well in the end. I really enjoyed it. When I fought well, it really genuinely felt incredible. You could be getting your butt kicked and come back from it and win the fight with just one well-timed strike. It's like Deontay Wilder and the Gypsy King all over again. I won't sugarcoat it, the controls are a little bit weird at first. I kept mixing up which mouse button controlled which hand, and as a result I spent far too long trying to remember just the basic actions mid-flight. After probably about 4 hours of gameplay, there's still loads of stuff I haven't quite figured out, loads of things I don't understand, and certainly loads of fighting mechanics that I have not mastered. The learning curve is not massive, but it's certainly steep at the beginning. And early on fights I won as much by accident as skill, or a lucky well-timed left hook seemed to work quite well for me. Controller support existed, but for me it was way too sensitive, so I just stuck with the keyboard and mouse. I found it too awkward to aim properly using the controller, but maybe that's something I'll come back to at a later date. Now, I score Half Sword in terms of realism super high. This is where Half Sword really shined. The fights don't feel like health bar combats. Indeed, there are no health bars. You are literally there fighting for your life. There's no comforting numbers. It felt like hit somebody in the right place with the right timing and the right power, and it's all over. I've had loads of fights where it's been ended with a single strike, loads of fights where it looked like I was done for and still won. And I love that tension. It forced me to fight like a coward sometimes, keeping my spacing, using my timing, and trying not to get clipped by a lucky strike. But even when you're doing well, that lucky hit can just come in at any time. Sometimes it's unfair. Maybe it's 1 against 3, 1 against 4. But in the actual full game, you can actually hire people to fight with you, and that certainly evens things out a little bit. Now, I've got to say that the full game felt more together than the demo did. I saw the tavern loop. You've got trade, rest, training, fighting, crafting. I even messed around with crafting weapons, hiring mercenaries, and a little bit of betting. But I also felt lost a lot of the time. I didn't understand the ranking, the progression, or what I was supposed to be doing next, and I definitely felt like the lack of a proper tutorial or guidance in places. This is a game that certainly doesn't feel like it has to explain itself to you in any way, shape or form. I have often longed for a boxing simulator to have these kind of physics, and where I don't feel that this is necessarily the finished, polished, complete article, this is definitely an expose as to what type of physics-based fighting I would like to see in a boxing sim. I'd say the audio was solid enough for what it is, but it's not spectacular. Hits landed with enough punch, but it wasn't really blowing my head off. Visually, it looked fine too, with lots of different maps and areas to fight in. The arenas are nicely laid out. There's a decent atmosphere. It felt medieval. Nothing really mind-melting. I have to say I hate fighting in the slums because you're basically fighting in mud, and you're just as likely to slip on the mud, smack your head on the concrete and lose as you are to win the fight. Again, brilliantly implemented. Performance held up generally well, although I did notice the occasional stutter. Didn't really sort of happen at any particular time. It was just random and sporadic. It's an early access title, something I'm sure they're working on. So I was frustrated a couple of times, and it was around the area of fairness and clarity. I repeatedly ran into some moments where opponents seemed to start with weapons in their hands, much better gear than what I had, and they just ran at me and killed me in a single swipe. I didn't really understand why. It didn't seem to be fair. There were weapons on the floor, but why has he already got one in his hand? It all just felt a little bit off. Now that I've played the full game, it makes more sense because you have to go to your itinerary, you have to keep your weapons. If you swap a weapon out, you'll have whatever weapon you swapped out with last time. It sounds a bit more complex than it actually is. It's very straightforward. But in the demo, it really genuinely didn't explain that. So playing the full game has exposed me to the reality of the gameplay process, and it certainly makes more sense in the full game. On top of that, the game didn't exactly explain its systems clearly. I've been trying to rank up for quite a while. I figured out how to do it in the end. Went into a tournament, had 7 fights, 3 or 4 of them against multiple 2 or 3 different opponents whilst on my own, I hasten to add. So yeah, if you look at my first couple of fights and then compare it to how I'm fighting now, I have progressed astronomically, and that's what's really good about the game. You genuinely learn from your mistakes, and if you get into it, if you learn, if you're willing to put the time and effort in, you will improve, just naturally improve. And it's such a great game in that respect. It's so realistic in that respect. Even with the confusion and the early access of rough edges, which there are many of, I genuinely enjoyed Half Sword way more than I expected. It's brutal, it's unique, and the better I got, the more addictive it became. I could literally play that game all day long. It'll be interesting to see what it's like fighting against other humans in the future, and I'd also really love it if there was like 100 versus 100 war. Now, there's no mention of that ever happening, but my God, that would be insane. I would love to see that. If you are interested in having a medieval combat sim where every single swing, punch, timed attack matters, and every mistake that you make could end your life, this game absolutely delivers on so many levels. If you go and look on Steam now, there's a lot of people giving it negative feedback, but I, for one, cannot understand why. This is an early access title that's doing things no other game has been able to do, and it's doing it really, really well.